Hello everyone, and thanks for listening to the ESG podcast. Today we're joined by Gemma Woodward, Executive Director and Director of Responsible Investment at Quilter Cheviot, the investment management company. As a charity investment manager, she works with charities to define and implement an investment strategy that meets the charity's requirements. In her role as Director of Responsible Investment, she works to ensure that Quilter Cheviot acts as stewards for its clients' assets in order to protect and enhance their clients' long-term returns. Which brings us neatly together today at the ESG Foundation. Gemma, thank you for making time to talk to us.
Pleasure.
Question 1. Explain briefly, if you would, Gemma, what ESG is and what an ESG report is.
So ESG stands for environmental, social and governance factors. So it's about investors identifying those factors when they think about the investments they make. Now, for a company who hopefully is issuing an ESG report, and we can go into that in a bit more detail, it's about thinking, what are the environmental, social and governance factors that are pertinent to that business? So it's not going to be the same things for every type of business and every industry. There will be different factors that are more pertinent for different areas. And so the ESG report, and it's called so many different things these days. It used to be CSR, for corporate social responsibility. And that seems to have gone slightly out of fashion. So now quite often it's called responsible business report. And that will be about the company talking about how it has, well, hopefully, how it has identified those ESG factors that are really pertinent to the business, how it has set various targets around there, and what it is doing to obviously improve its performance in those areas.
Would it be fair to say ESG reporting's a fad of CFOs? They're going through at the moment to make their businesses more attractive to investment managers like yourself?
If so, I mean, I personally don't think so, but as I will say, I wouldn't, would I? Because it's my job. I'd be a bit mad to say that. I mean, I think the tide has turned massively. If we think, probably 2007, before the financial crisis, everyone was very much into thinking about environmental, social and governance factors, responsible investment, etc., etc. We had the financial crisis, and then everyone was like, actually, we just want to really make some money again. I really believe it is very different this time. We've seen a real change of thought. You've seen people like Greta Thunberg and David Attenborough really, really influencing how the public thinks about this topic. Plastic straws suddenly became this absolute no-no because of Blue Planet. You've also got significant regulatory change coming through from a variety of different areas. So therefore, I think, perhaps in the past it's been, let's just write a few nice words about how lovely we are as a company. But hopefully most people have seen that as a form of greenwashing. I absolutely don't believe this is a fad. We have seen through the past few months of COVID-19 how, companies are being held more and more to account about how they treat employees and all other aspects as well. I think it will just become more important.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously you're advising your clients as to whether they should invest in publicly listed businesses. But do you think any organisation could find a value in producing an ESG report?
I think so, because hopefully, your ESG report kind of goes towards your sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think what we've seen more and more is it's about, some people call it inclusive capitalism. You've had, American companies talking more about it's not about the shareholder, it is about the stakeholder. And I think, a lot of different entities, what is their purpose? And a lot have a far greater purpose, one would hope, and they have a value system that an ESG report might help, inform them in how they deliver that.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you, in your capacity as an investment manager, are there any circumstances where you'd invest in a business that didn't have an ESG report in 2020?
I think it's interesting because it's not a kind of a tick box thing. For some companies, they will try and incorporate that obviously in their other reporting. For others, if it's just become a listed company, it might be a kind of process that they're going through of how to develop that, and they're seeking various kind of opinions, etc. So I don't think it's a yes or a no, because there is always an argument as a responsible investor that actually, is it better to invest in a company that shows that they are interested in these areas and are willing to engage with investors, and you believe therefore there will be, accretive effects of that. So I wouldn't say it's a no, but it would be something we'd kind of like, oh, it's interesting. It's an engagement and a dialogue.
So how easy is it to spot if a company is going through a tick box exercise just to get industry observers like, say, the ESG Foundation off their backs?
Well, I think in an ideal world, and we are far from this, because it is quite a complex issue, is that we would start seeing executives having remuneration linked to kind of the outcomes of their ESG reporting. And it can be quite tricky. It's not straightforward. For some businesses, for example, oil companies, that's a whole lot more straightforward than it is perhaps for others. I think that would be a real step in moving away from what sometimes can look potentially like a tick box exercise. But I think it's actually about the conversations with those companies, it's about how they approach that conversation. If they're very defensive, you're kind of like, okay, that's a bit interesting. But also, about the depth of that conversation. And, it's quite boring to always say, but a lot of this job is about communication. Right. Because what you might see in the headlines of a newspaper isn't perhaps what's going, on per se. And it is very much about the long term rather than the short term.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because Alan Jope, of course, at Unilever made an announcement only this month that Unilever were going to invest £1 billion into their Nature and Climate Fund. And he's very graciously agreed to come onto the podcast. So be able to hear what somebody at the forefront of the ESG movement is thinking. I just wondered, what's the current take-up of ESG reporting amongst publicly listed companies? Are they all, do they all do it, or is it only half? What's the percentage, would you say?
I don't know what the exact percentage, I have to say. I think it does depend, particularly on where they're listed. And I think as well, it will depend on the sector in which they're in. So some sectors are very good at reporting on this because they've had to, because the spotlight has been on them, like the oil and gas or the pharmaceutical sectors in particular. I would say that also you have got that raft of listed companies that are smaller, where there is an awful lot of work to be done, to be perfectly honest, in terms of disclosures and also the governance practices at times. Yeah. So I'd say amongst the big ones, yes, it's pretty much all of them, because it's like, why aren't you doing it? Because they will have a team working on it as well. But in the smaller companies, I think you have to be a bit more cautious.
Right. And when you're saying different sectors, do you mean internationally as well? Because there are only 1,000 businesses in the UK, whereas I noticed, is it the SEC and also the Hong Kong Exchange are going to start regulating what people should be reporting on?
Exactly. And the WEF is trying to do some work on this as well, the World Economic Forum, because obviously there are so many different frameworks people can use. Right. And there are obviously as well different governance standards in different countries. So therefore, what we think is okay, what the US thinks is okay, for example, of having, chair and CEO as the same person, we don't think that's okay. So there's quite a lot of work to do to make it interchangeable across the globe. But I'd certainly say that, certain sectors have had a head start in this because their focus has been on them, for a lot longer. And perhaps some of the newer areas struggle a bit more in terms of catching up, but they're certainly getting there.
Since we've been in lockdown for nearly 6 months, there's clearly been a lot of news and noise about the fact that ESG focused businesses have tended to perform better than those that haven't got an ESG strategy clearly identifiable. What do you think the reason for that is?
I think it's quite a complex one, because I think, one, it's about what do you define as being an ESG company? Right. And I think that's quite difficult to define in many ways, because different people will have a different view on that. There's always an argument in this world that, we have different suppliers of kind of ESG metrics, and they won't give the same scoring to the same company. But then you can also say that's what happens with sell-side analysts. But I think, you've also at this point had quite an interesting move in the oil price, so that obviously will have impacted that sector. I think what is true is I think companies who have thought beyond the immediate balance sheet and thought a bit more about the impact on their workforce, how things look by taking up government loans when you're probably got quite a lot of money in the bank, etc., are coming out of it better reputationally. And will probably, one imagines, if the consumer does vote with their feet, do better in the future. But it is interesting how we have seen the media take far more interest in this than they probably have done in the past.
Which is why we started the ESG Foundation, because we recognise that probably the time is right now to start talking about this more widely across all the sectors. What trends do you think we should be looking for in the next 18 months, if indeed that's the right time horizon? What do you think? Unfortunately, it's our last question as well, so I thought I'd leave the floor open to you if you thought there was anything other than trends that we should be looking at as far as ESG is concerned.
I think the trend will be, and it is at the trend that we're already seeing, which is a bit about, what did you do during the war? And instead it's what did you do during the virus? And it is about, companies being held to account. And it's making sure that over the next 18 months is that there isn't, that continues to happen, and that policies are put in place now, particularly around remuneration, that don't, result in big payouts actually in 3 years' time, because that's the normal remuneration cycle. I think there'll be far more focus on the social aspects. I think obviously the use of furloughs, and whether companies are taking government support and how are they then paying dividends, or what are they doing, looking at the mix of that. Climate change has obviously not gone away, and I think perhaps what's happened over the last few months gives us a bit of an insight about societal disruption. And whilst we can all say it's great because there'll be the carbon emissions have fallen this year because of the lockdown across the globe, that is a one-off. We need to understand far more the societal implications of climate change, and hopefully people are getting more understanding of that. Thank you.
Please join us again soon. And in the meantime, for those of you who've listened for the first time, please share the link to the podcast. Thank you.